Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the introduction. It's great being here on this virtual stage live. And it's a pleasure for me that I'm not alone, but with me is also my friends Jordan from JLL and Nico from Visionaries 777. And to kick this off and show you the future of PropTech and how this constellation and partnership started with more than 18 months ago, I already directly hand over to Jordan. Jordan, please take it from here.
Clemens, thanks. And thanks for lining up these crazy timelines with people from all over the world. At JLL, we have really been thinking a lot about PropTech, and for our industry, for the incumbent property industry, we believe we've been leading the conversation around PropTech. And one of the key forms of PropTech is this idea that real estate is really an operating system for the future of work. And never has that been more true than in the year 2020. We're finding out that it's not about a balance between work and life. It's about an integration between work and life and how those are able to be managed and what job space does in all of that. So when we look, or the first thing we want to do is take a look at what the future of work looks like. So if we look at this data from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, the labor market since 1984 has changed quite considerably. But one of the clearest and distinct patterns is there at the lower part of the graph. Not much has changed in the labor market in that nearly 40 years in terms of types of work that are routine cognitive, routine manual, or non-routine manual. The only big shift in jobs has been in the non-routine cognitive. Now, most of what goes into making a building work and work well for the people that are in that building tends to be routine and manual, right in that middle line there. Those types of tasks are very quickly being automated away. But one place that hasn't really touched is how we make sure that buildings or facilities take care of the people inside of them. So when we take a look at, excuse me. So we want to think about what the future of work looks like as we start to automate those tasks. It means man and machine working side by side. And that's where augmentation comes in. So when we look at the occupier needs, we look at people really want to, the people focus has always been there, right? This change in the future of work is now people are reviewed as talent. But again, it's that non-cognitive, non-routine type of work. We want people to be creative. We want people to be interacting with the people that are in the building. It really needs to be service driven. We hear the term everything as a service these days, software as a service. We use phrases in our own organization like community as a service. And that really means people working with people, right? Service, that's exactly what service is. And so that's become a huge focus moving forward. We even see that statistic below that 50% of respondents to a big global survey we had say they would love to have a human experience designer as part of their corporate real estate dream team. On the far right side there, we also have to look at place. We couldn't be a 250-year-old property firm without focusing on place. But the needs of place, especially in the last 6 months, have changed quite considerably. And so the bigger part and the biggest part of transformation right now is technology. But really a lot of technology transformation conversations in recent years have floated around these sort of far future types of tech, right? Yes, we have autonomous vehicles in their very early stage, but they're nowhere near impacting society. And so we wanted to start to take a look at what we thought was here and what we thought was now. And that's where it's important to kind of show you the evolution of our thinking around augmented reality. So I want to start with concept stage AR. when we started really prototyping or thinking in our heads what we wanted to be doing with augmented reality, we arrived at the sort of natural conclusions that you would always come to with the most famous use cases of augmented reality, is really just activation, virtual activation by way of, pointing a device at a visual target. So we started designing or conceptualizing tours for office space so that you would point a device at a particular object in space and you would get animations or information served up to you. But then when we were connected to the team at Insider Navigation and the team at Visionaries 777, inspiration really struck. And that's where I want to hand it over to Nico to show how we've shifted from serving up information to using augmented reality to gather information.
Right, thanks, Jordan. So now I'm going to show you how the solution is working. So usually preventive maintenance for facility management is done on a paper checklist. With our solution, it's using augmented reality. So the inspector will scan the marker to initialize the tracking, select a route, and then we guide him to each item to inspect using air navigation. The air navigation works with stairs, with outdoors, and when the item is reached, we see this green geofence. As soon as we get close enough, this checklist button appears, and this is how you're going to open the checklist. Each checklist is going to open different tasks you have to do. One of the good things is when you are doing the inspection, you don't need any connection. So this works completely offline, like all the data is in the cache, and you only need connection at the end when you need to upload the actual inspection records. So what's great using Insider Navigation is that solution is really light. So it's good for scaling and it's good for like really large area. We also had to follow like that scalability and make a solution that we can easily scale. And also what was really important is having the authoring being as easy as possible. So this can be done by the building manager directly. So I'm going to show you a video, but you have basically 3 steps to create those inspections. First, going to be create a checklist, an item, and then a route. So here the building manager logs in. First, he creates that checklist. A checklist is made of tasks. A task can be like a check, an input field, a drop down. And then we're going to have to pin those checklists to a physical asset. So for that, we use the app and we do it directly in AR. So those pins, they can be precisely placed in the physical space. We can access to those items also from the backend to easily manage them or create a new one without the app. And then when we are done, we're going to create those routes. So creating a route is just putting different items together and then creating like an inspection routine. Those inspections can be scheduled, so that's why we have a calendar viewer. And then finally, this backend is also used to review the results, so we can check all those logs individually, but we can also have this analytics view to have like a better overview of the building without reviewing all the inspection individually. Now I'm going to hand it back to Jordan.
Hey, thank you, Nico. So what Nico just illustrated was how we've used this technology to overcome those manual and routine processes and convert what is basically paper into ones and zeros, into analytical data. And the reason that becomes a differentiating feature is we're talking about using augmented reality primarily as a tool for harvesting data rather than simply serving up information. And so we look at that, and we look at how that applies across our massive portfolio globally, and we see some really key data inflows that will change how we approach the buildings. And so I think it's very comparable to think of this as a means for which we can not just analyze particular data points within built environments, but really map the indoor world, the same way that Google and Apple Maps and other utilities have essentially mapped the entire outdoor world. So when we think about what that looks like, we're talking about things like the creation of digital twins, what the equipment life cycle looks like. Sometimes this is simple equipment like a fire extinguisher, but sometimes this is incredibly complex systems like building chiller systems for entire skyscrapers. So you can understand while having the lifecycle analytics of that helps our clients make better decisions about what they're doing, but also things like user performance data, who's using the app and how well are they doing. And usually this is actually not a question of time, but a question of quality. When people are performing maintenance and security and health checks, we want them spending a lot of time making sure that's correct, not just rushing through it to get that routine, tedious process over with. As you zoom out, we can start to then have whole building performance data. I'm in a building in Hong Kong. If you can see my background here, we have thousands of skyscrapers in Hong Kong. So they're incredibly complex machines to manage. So the better data we have on their performance, the better we can take care of that and focus on those essential needs I just mentioned. Things like occupier impact data, we're saying how much is one occupier of a building using it relative to the others, which is be a new way of analyzing and understanding leasing transactions. And then of course, one of the biggest differentiators in augmented reality versus simply just throwing all this into an app or a GUI interface to input that information is that you can get image data to train machine vision models later. And so I think it's time to pass over to Clemens to talk more about the underlying tech that really powers this.
Thank you very much, guys. And I guess it's really awesome, I guess, what we achieved together the last 18 months. Last AWE, we've just shown a first glimpse, and people said, is that really running? And I guess that's really something that I appreciate very much, that I guess we three parties together were able to show that we are not talking about pilots, but we have something that's up and running in buildings 38 stories high in Hong Kong, in Australia, and in hopefully soon other countries of the world. And we founded Insider Navigation 6 years now ago with the idea behind it that we want to have something that is really up and running and scalable. And we're not talking about 10,000 or 20,000 square feet or 50,000 square feet, but several million square feet. And that's what we could achieve with that platform. But nevertheless, as you can see here, our underlying technology in general is the platform running in cloud, any kind of cloud that you want to have, or even on premise, since we have a lot of industrial clients with sensitive data that don't want to store the data in the cloud. We are not only supporting iOS or Android like somebody would think of, but we're also supporting Windows and Linux, since we have a lot of industrial clients that not only want to use on-prem, but also want to use, for instance, their Windows technology based on the requirements of their CTO. Like Nico and me are now also having a client, for instance, in Mexico. And as you see, we see a little bit that platform understanding the XYZ coordinates, how this whole thing evolved the last years, and also thanks a lot of thanks to Jordan and to Nico, that we moved away from we have an indoor position navigation software up to we have a platform that is a little bit like an app store for buildings or for venues, indoor and outdoor. And you have different solutions on top. And thanks to Nico, our awesome partner in Hong Kong, we now have together this maintenance solution, but there are a lot of other solutions like building information management solution, live monitoring of factories, supply chain, warehouse solutions on top of it. And this is where we are really happy that now with more than 20 partners globally, heavily growing numbers from New Zealand to North America, we now can distribute awesome solutions like the one that Jordan and Nico presented right now. And on this note, I guess maybe what we've shown is already future for some of the participants, but I now want to hand over to Jordan to talk about the real future in PropTech. What are the next steps from here?
Thanks, Clemens. Yeah, I know you're all tired of hearing me talk. I know you want to answer some questions, but let me just give you a quick glimpse of what we think is the future of PropTech. And that word vision is really, really key here. You know, a lot of the talk in our industry has been around things like IoT sensors to handle a lot of these data gathering tasks. But in reality, we're not seeing the technological leap go the hardware direction. We're seeing it more go to applying algorithms to machine vision models. But in order to have that, you need good quality images to train those models, and you need the associated data. And this is where we see the real power of this technology. I'm not going to go into detail, as Clemens said, about how we've done that, but we think we've come up with a really clever workaround to get quality image data simply through the routine tasks that here in Asia, I have over 30,000 colleagues that are performing these types of tasks every day. So just multiply that times, the dozens of tasks they do every day, 365 days a year. And your imagination runs wild with how much machine vision data we'd be able to have. On the right there, you see a robot. We actually are working with this company, Turing Video, using some of the data we're gathering from the project we're doing with Visionaries and Insider Navigation to actually feed their robots to be able to perform the analytics you see there on the left side. The one last thing I want to just acknowledge as we have this conversation is when we talk about the future of work, we have to talk about the impact that the coronavirus pandemic has had on all of this. And we don't know what that future looks like, but what we do know is these types of technologies are going to help us understand better what the right and wrong behaviors are in a post-COVID world. And that needs to be empowered by machine vision, working side by side with those property managers that we have. So with all of that, I want to thank you for your time, and just one last pass back to Clemens.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much for joining, and that we're able to present this together. And now we're happy to answer your questions. Let's take it from there.
Great. Hi, Clemens. This is Rich Ryan from 615, and really fascinating application of VR technology around the property space. There's been a number of questions that came up, some of which I don't understand, and I think some of which you might have touched on. But one is, are the inspection solutions dedicated to iOS devices? It sounds like they were asking if it uses ARKit for localization after reading codes. But it sounds like you mentioned some Windows compatibility as well. Maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
Exactly. So in general, we developed it in C++. So right now it runs on iOS, tablet, mobile phone. But we are now having customers in chemical factories in Thailand and in Germany using it on Android starting, I guess, from July. And we are having an automotive OEM, which I'm, I guess, not allowed to say right now, but they are using Windows. So we are quite flexible on this side. In general, we are having a filter where we are combining the marker recognition, AR Core, ARKit, and the sensors, or some other kind of SLAM for Windows and other devices. So what we are trying to do is, due to that we are working for corporates where you have to support nearly all of the devices and running on cloud, on-prem, we just try, to be flexible on all sides, on the client side with all the different operating systems, and on the server side. So yeah.
Sure. So Nadine had chimed in and said, is this available for evaluation purchase?
Sure. Just go on our website. We'll send you a free demo. I'm happy that you can have a try. Also, we are supporting on the technical side. And if you like it, we'll send you all further details. So no issue.
So this was
drop.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I guess what I've seen is also from Michael Neufeld, what's the pass, or I guess how big or long can be the pass from scanning QR code asset. In general, the QR codes are only placed every 50 meters, 150 feet. And in between, we are using computer vision SLAM depending on what is available on the device. So it's not that many that we need. The big advantage is why we are using markers and not point cloud, because we initially started with point cloud in 2014. But we've seen with similarities in industrial environment, this just gives us a very stable position, especially if you have self-repeating places, or when you are working indoor and outdoor and you have day and night.
Yeah, and so another question is it HoloLens V1 or V2 compatible?
In general, since we developed it in C++, yes, practical till now, we don't support it because we only had requests till now for HoloLens for pilots, but not for real projects. As soon as there's a business case behind it, happy to support the HoloLens.
Sure. So this last one's not a question, but I thought you would enjoy hearing it, as would the rest. From Tony Merlot. I need this. I can't even remember how many times I've gotten lost of some of the massive facilities that I've worked in as a contractor. So
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tony. Thank you very much, Tony. And to be fair, one of our newest clients is a utility company which are working a lot with contractors, and they already have an existing maintenance solution, so they will not use ARPM, but they are integrating our SDK in their existing process and software exactly due to this reason. So Tony, whenever you need us, just drop me an email. You've seen my email before. And sorry, maybe that I was speaking quite slow, but it was 2 a.m. in the morning when I did the recording.
That's all right. We're all juggling this new world that we're in. There was one last question, and I think we have a break coming up, so I'll take an extra 30 seconds. Are there plans to go marketless with kind of instant world tracking, like, or do you find that you'll consistently use kind of a marker-based, leverage system?
No, in general, as we are flexible on the client side and on the server side, the whole process also runs, of course, then later on without markers. The only thing is that we are right now having projects normally running at 80,000 square meter up to 1.2 million square meter, which I guess is roughly 12 million square feet. And till now, as far as we've seen with our research, that's pretty tough to cover with point clouds and industrial environment. But as soon as there's availability for a stable solution that you can use on drones, forklifts, or in industrial environment while running around, happy to replace that part in our technology chain.
That's great. It says, what is the web address? But somebody responded, insidernavigation.com. So if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to Clemens directly or go on the website and learn more. And thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us your technology. It's really compelling. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And hopefully next year we all meet in person. Thank you for your time and questions, and have a sunny day.
Of course, you too. Be well, be safe.